Welcome back to the Platform Skate Podcast, episode number 20 with Geoff Reimer.
Geoff Reimer.
Yeah.
So glad to have you.
The infamous.
I think at the beginning, I think you were on the one of the top of Raleigh's list for guest. Were you not?
I think I said that in the first episode, that we had to have Geoff on.
Yeah.
I did hear that, and it made me feel very warm and fuzzy. Thank you, Raleigh.
And it only took 19 more episodes to get you here.
No kidding.
Yeah. Excited to have you here. We go way back, and so it's going to be fun to talk about skateboarding and life and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, welcome here.
Great to be here.
Awesome.
Really great to be here.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Even though this is our second try at this since only last week that we tried to do this?
I think so.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
Yep. Yeah.
So we're glad it worked today.
Bit of a redo.
Yeah, for sure. I don't even know where to start with you, Geoff. Maybe you can decide where we start because, you have such a rich history when it comes to involvement in the skateboard community. And maybe you want to start right at the beginning. I'm not sure, but I'll let you start where you want to start.
Wow. Before I do that, Raleigh, you have any direction for me? If not, I'll...
No, go for it.
I was like, maybe Raleigh could help me out. I don't know.
Even like where you just like started, like your first experience with skateboarding or where you started skateboarding or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good story. My sister, Joss, she's like 8 years older than me, and this guy, Russ Bergman, was really into her, apparently. And they never ended up dating, so sorry to throw you under the bus, Russ. But he was like, oh, your little brother should get into skateboarding. He's interested. Like, I'll sell him my complete for $90.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sick. And it was a toy machine with GK6 trucks and like whatever, yellowed out wheels, but it didn't matter. The fact that it was like at like a pro. I didn't start on a Nash or a Walmart. I started on a toy machine and Grind Kings. So that was when I started. I was about 12. And I grew up in Landmark, Manitoba. So it's a small, really small rural town. One store, one restaurant, one mail post office, etc. And not really any concrete roads. So that's where I learned how to skateboard. And there's a handful of guys 2 years older than me. So I was in grade 7 at the time. They were probably in grade 9. And we would go skate in the tennis court across the street or just on like the sidewalk in front of the school. Like it was so minimal. Yeah. But we ended up building, necessity breeds innovation. Me and my best friend, as like 12, 13-year-olds, I still don't really know who helped us because now looking at 12-year-olds, I'm like, I didn't build a skate park when I was 12. But maybe, or with what help? Anyways, the point is a skate park got built in my grandpa's barn loft.
Oh,
and
wow.
We shoveled out all the hay, the straw. It was like 2/3 covered in straw. My best friend almost died because he had allergies, just inhaling all this like mouse turd and dust.
Yeah. Wow.
And we cleared the place out and swept it and built ramps and spent hours and hours and hours up there.
Yeah. Wow. That's a nice wood floor to build on.
It was decent wood floor. There was some holes.
Yeah.
We fixed some holes, but it was.
That's a pretty cool spot. Like, it's like, oh, come to my grandpa's barn and go skate. Like
the barn. It was called the Barn Skate Park in Landmark, and people would come, and those older kids would come. And
so, when you say skate park, what did you have for obstacles up there?
It was here at the platform. Like your spot in here, I would say it's like it was similar in the sense that there was like quarter pipe, bank, hip. And then a ledge, and then for a rail, we had like this 7-inch PVC that we screwed to something somehow.
Yeah.
That's where I learned like all the tricks, like board slides and lip slides. And I think I broke a board doing a lip slide. I don't think I've done a lip slide since. It's been about 23 years.
Wow.
I feel like we have similar stories with that because at the old platform, we had a curb that was really waxed up. And I was trying lip slides on there, and I broke my board. And I don't know if I've ever tried a lip slide since then either.
Not worth it.
Yeah, it was like a few months ago. I was trying lip slides, and I was locking into them, and I broke a board. I also have not tried them since.
Is it worth $75? No. Or 50 or wherever you get your boards.
Yeah.
Which is why all the more respect I have for the guys that have lip slides, because how do they do them with like
such grace?
Come down so gentle on their board, because I apparently cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in size wise, relation to our little spot here, what would
I was gonna compare it. I would say it was probably like, and I have walked up there after, so it's not like, oh yeah, 13-year-old Geoff thinks it's, but I would say it would be like 4 of those.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was a big barn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
any lofts that I've been in, they always seem so huge up there.
Yeah.
So
And they had like the big roof.
Yeah.
High ceiling. Yeah, for sure.
Pigeons flying around and crapping on the floor. And
oh, lovely.
And me and my buddy Matt, this was like working at the edge and, watching skate rats just only want to skateboard so much. I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, what's going on? Then I have to remind myself that when I was that age, I would get up in the morning, go to the barn, skateboard until it was dark, like 11 midnight, and then go home and sleep. And then my buddy Matt, we would leave the barn, go our separate ways, and be like, see you tomorrow. Yeah. And just meet there tomorrow and just bring pizza pops. We had a microwave up there.
Nice.
So we didn't have to leave. And then we slept there a couple nights too. So it was
wow.
And it was just kind of an informal spot where all the locals would come. Like,
yeah, like trying to think of how formal, like it was before the era of cell phones. So it wasn't like, hey, Geoff, can I come down? It was just like, see you at school. Are you going there after? And
yeah,
I don't actually remember, but there were obviously sessions.
Yeah.
With like lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
5 to whatever, 8 skaters in the town that would come. And
nice.
And my grandpa had like a VHS camera.
Yeah.
That we borrowed, and I want to watch those videos so bad. Like that would have been 1998, 1999.
Right.
Like VHS footage.
Yeah.
They still around?
I don't know. I didn't hold on to those tapes. It was the older guys.
Oh man. Be interesting to see that stuff.
Got to track it down.
Yeah. I still have a VHS tape like from my BMX days when I was a teenager. Yeah. That's I remember a friend of my parents had one of those cameras, and we borrowed it and filmed one day, and I still have the tape.
Yeah.
It's you can hardly watch it anymore. It's so snowy because we've watched it so many times.
Oh yeah.
That is just the tape is just worn right out.
Yeah. Digitize that ASAP.
Yeah. Wow. So I did not know that Landmark had an indoor park way back then.
saying all those words together, it's true.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a, like,
yeah.
I guess I kind of think of like, Hopkins ramp in Kenora or whatever. It's like there was a space that a few people knew about.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it totally was the barn skateboard.
And in a lot of ways, I'm assuming then, like if you spent all that time at that age, like that really formed your skating.
Yeah.
Right? Like coming out of that.
I literally started as a park ramp transition skater.
Right. Instead of like on the driveway or sidewalk, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Were the ramps fairly big, or like the bank would have been 4 feet high?
Yeah,
or
everything's about 4 feet.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And then I remember building a hip out of like these roof trusses that we happened upon.
Oh, okay.
You know how like roof trusses are?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't skate awesome, but it was fine.
Yeah.
Huh. And then, so where did it go from there?
My skating?
Yeah.
Just to go back though, how long was that set up there? And like was it a few years, or
that is a good question.
How did it end?
My buddy CJ he's a BMXer. He built a really nice quarter pipe later, and kind of was using the space more. I guess I was right at that time. I just didn't maintain it. And then I guess the ground maybe had too many holes, and bikes can go over them easier than skateboards. So I would say, yeah, I don't really know when it stopped kind of getting use, and I don't know. And then now, like a few years ago, that barn got torn down, so you can't.
Yeah. So obviously you started skating somewhere else then, if you kind of the memory's gone at the end of that.
Yeah, exactly. Then I would I spent a lot of time in Steinbach on the wood ramps there where Street Havoc was always hosted.
So were you old enough then to drive to Steinbach, or?
That's just jogs a very funny memory. I would start skating there before I was old enough to drive. So probably 14, 15, I was going there because Peter, that's where this memory came from. He just split open his shin and got like a bunch of interior stitches and exterior stitches. And I was like, oh, that happened to me. Steinbach. And I don't even know how I got there. And I met someone in the hospital after I got my stitches from my town of Landmark that drove me back. And I'm like, how did I even get there? So I was going there before I had my drivers.
So were you skating in Steinbach during the heyday of the wooden era there? Like, I'm trying to think. Street Havoc and all that, like when that was just huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was amazing. And the skaters like Matt Epp, Matt Weeb, Blade. Who else would have been like the Steinbach locals then? Like Woogs. That's like those. Anyways, I'm not gonna try naming all the videos that were coming out at that point, but it was definitely a golden era, and that Street Havoc was an amazing event with skateboarding and tons of music.
Yeah.
Like Comeback Kid. Officer Down, Arch Rivals, like there was like a band list, like it was a full fest and a skateboard contest, and I was like 14, just living my dreams, just being out there, and it was awesome. Those were really good times for sure.
Yeah, that was. It's too bad that kind of died out there because that was just a huge event back in those days.
Yeah,
and it's like. Anybody from anywhere was like you were going to Steinbach for that, right?
That's amazing. So you went to a few?
I went to a few, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I missed like probably the really big ones. Like I ended up being there more kind of at the tail end of it when it was starting to die out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I heard all the stories of like when it was huge and when it was just going off. Yeah, it was.
I think I lost in the early days, so I competed a few times.
Okay.
And one of the earlier times, I think I got beat up by Matt Stelmack, who, if you're from Winnipeg, you know that name. He was like 3 feet tall, but could like pop, shove, tail grab, and like skate really well. And then a few years later, it moved once those wooden ramps got discontinued, and they got that concrete park.
Right.
Then I skated there when I was like 16. Or something like that, and I won the intermediate.
Interesting.
And actually, I have this newspaper clipping because I was going through some old stuff, and it was like James Friesen, like Woogs was in some category, and me, and anyways, it was a really epic, like old yellow newspaper of clippings of like guys that I still skate with and are friends with.
Nice. That's cool. Fun fact: I may have been a judge in that era. Like when they moved it over to the concrete park, except for I was judging BMX.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. Fun fact, they when I won, I got this really sick Circa hoodie I was really stoked on, some other wheels and whatever, and I parked my parents' Sunbird, which I was driving at the time, on my parking lot or driveway in Landmark where nothing happens. They all got stolen.
Oh, wow.
That night. All my Street Havoc winnings.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a bummer.
No doubt.
Yeah. Wow. And speaking of judging, I got asked to judge it a few times. So full circle, I skated in it and judged it a few times. So
awesome.
But it still happens though, I think.
I am not sure.
It's not quite as big.
The one time, I think it's one of the only times I've ever been to the Steinbach Park, me and my buddy went out there, and we went out in the evening, and then we were sleeping in the back of my SUV in the Superstar parking lot. And then we were going to go back and skate the next day. Yeah. But we went there and there's some kind of competition going on. Mm. And I was like, whatever. So we just sat and watched the competition. We didn't even skate the next day.
It must have been that.
It must have been.
They also started, there was Street Havoc, and then there's Street Havoc locals only.
That's what it was. They called it locals only. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it was.
Which I totally resonate with. Now living in Winnipeg half my life, but definitely being a townie half my life. You don't want any Winnipeg skaters coming to your contest.
Like, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think eventually they figured that out and they're like, you know what? We're going to do a contest for us.
And,
not get swept by all the city skaters.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unless you have one like we had, I can't remember what it was called, but there was a big event we had at the island here, which was mostly about wakeboarding. Something fest, anyways, Wake Fest or something.
Yeah.
And just to make the event feel bigger and more stuff, they asked us to run a skate competition. Okay. And so we built some obstacles for it and stuff. I think one day skates came out and did a demo, and then the next day we were doing a contest, and it was a locals only thing. And the problem was at that time, like we had this thing going on, and maybe some of the locals from that era will correct me on this, but it was like nobody wanted to skate contests. Like none of our local guys were used to skating contests. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it was like this, well, if so-and-so's in it, then no point in me even trying or whatever. Right. And so nobody signed up for this contest. And so we had a bunch of young guys that were the only ones that went in it. And I think the winning, and the other thing about it that's so funny is we went out and we got so much swag for this thing. Like we went to Skates, we went to Borders Anonymous. I can't remember where, I think even West 49 helped us out, and everybody was like so generous that we got so much stuff. And the winning run consisted of a kickflip. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just Brendan Butler. Somebody did a flat ground kickflip.
Brendan Butler. He might have done it on a bank or up a fun box or something. I can't remember. I just remember that I was just like, I can't believe I'm giving all this stuff away to first place for landing a kickflip. Yeah.
I totally understand that. I've skated in and then organized contests, and which this all reminds me. About a year ago, I was snowboarding in the mountains with some buddies, and we went to the hill, and it was actually right when COVID was hitting, so there's like no one there. It's like March last year. I see like slopestyle contest posters.
Yeah,
and I can hold my own, or at least I could when I was 20. Living in Washington, but even now, like, I was like, slopestyle contest. There's no one here. I'm gonna go check this out.
Yeah,
and it was $10 admission fee, but it includes a beer and a burger for lunch.
Right.
Okay.
Like, that's like what, $2 more than it would normally be, or maybe even the right price.
Yeah.
And I'm usually on the other side of the table organizing these things, exactly getting a ton of loot.
Yeah.
That I know they have to give away today.
Yeah.
So I signed up, and I got my 3 other buddies to sign up. We swept the podium. And I got like a pair of goggles and like a sweater and lunch.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like a life experience, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
And a memory, right? So
that's a great $10 investment.
Oh yeah. That's amazing. I was just like, I walked, I was like, I know how these things work.
Yeah.
And they were probably stoked too that like anyone signed up.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone actually rode.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, when Butler won with that kickflip, I was like, he was one of our young guys at that time. He was just starting. Like, I was stoked on him for landing it, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing his kickflip, but it just was a little bit frustrating that we put all that work into it, and then like the guys that we had locally that could have skated in it and actually like been entertaining more than just a kickflip. Where they all sat out.
Yeah.
So
That's too bad.
That's the same in Winnipeg too. Like, you know, for example, those Vans contests of like make a video. It's
Right.
like, well, our Fane or Eric like submitting a video, like then I'll just save my time. You know?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
The skate communities know.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, it's a bummer that you don't just try, but I also understand it.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
It's the pro and the con of having a tight community, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably put in a submission knowing that, like, if those guys are in it, it was like no use. But I think it'd be fun just to go to the edge one day and just film something.
Yeah.
And just,
Totally.
you know.
That's the right attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my attitude, I don't know. So back to Steinbach. And so skating there, you get your drivers. I'm assuming then you're in Steinbach all the time, or is it Winnipeg at that point?
So little known fact about Geoff, I have a horrible memory. So I don't really know. I assume it's mostly Steinbach. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah. I also filmed for Mech or Die 2 and 3 in Steinbach. So yes, I'm going to say Steinbach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would assume, though, that you were already familiar with the edge and like probably doing some van loads or whatever there out of your crew, or
you know what, we would, like my buddy Matt that I mentioned, he would rent it for his birthday or once a year or something like that, and that is kind of the extent. Kind of growing up, junior high school, it's kind of like rentals once a while, and or now that I'm really jogging the old putrid memory, I would go every so often to the edge. At the time, Dan Thomas was a guy. You know Dan Thomas from The Undecided was the band that he was in, and then he was the manager at Borders Anonymous. Yep. And anyways, I would get dropped off on one of his nights or something like that because he was from Lamrock and I knew that one person. And so that happened a few times, but it definitely wasn't like a regular thing in my upbringing for sure.
I thought that James Friesen was really connected to the edge, but maybe not. Maybe I just assumed that because he came with us to California one year with Akeem.
Word.
Yeah. I think that was him, and Bassett came too, but I think that was a different year.
It's funny you mentioned James because as you were mentioning, like, where did you skate and whatever in the later years of high school, I was like, I spent a decent amount of time in Rosenort actually. And like there was some asphalt that we would skate, but that's not, I'm not going to say like that's where I would go skate, but that's where James Friesen is from. And he's a good buddy of mine, and he actually lives close by me in Winnipeg, and we hang out a little bit. Yeah. But he worked at the Edge the summer before me with Caleb.
Okay.
And then I worked the next summer.
So what was in Rosenort then?
Nothing, just friends.
Like just it was just flat?
Yeah, music and friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when I was, I don't know how old I would have been. I had my drivers, and we went to Rosenort because there was a half pipe there. Oh. So I assume that was gone at that point then. But we rode a half pipe that was like 10 feet high, like 12 feet wide or something.
Good night.
In Rosenort.
That's too big.
It was at a farm. Well, we were on BMX bikes.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It was at a farmyard there somewhere. I don't even know how we found out about it, but somehow we knew about it, and we just went, and there was like nobody around. We just like rode it.
Really? No one around. Well, you obviously knew someone who knew someone that
must have, yeah. Because there was also one in Blumenort that we went to. In somebody, their backyard was right next to the elementary school there, and they had this big like half pipe, and we met them through some youth event or something, and then we got invited there, and there was a big party there we went to and rode that half pipe too. And that one I think was similar size, maybe bigger.
I wish I knew. There was a big one in Landmark actually, like a big 10-foot white. I remember it was when I was like 10 or not even like 5, because I didn't even think about skateboarding at that point.
Yeah.
Super, super young. But and also my buddy Dylan had a mini ramp in Rosenart, but it was like a 3,
Oh, okay.
3.5, 4, maybe different eras too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this would have probably been a little earlier. I just wasn't sure how long that ramp would have lasted out there. Yeah.
Ramps, the best.
Yeah.
For bringing people together.
It's funny because back in those days, like there were no skate parks, so you'd hear about somebody having a ramp on their yard, and it's like, it's a trip, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like finding, like in Cali when they're finding bowls and stuff, and people's empty bowls in people's or like their pools or stuff.
Yeah.
You just hear about it, and everyone's like, "Oh, all right, that's where we're going."
I want to skate it so bad.
Yeah.
That's what it was like when I went to Kenora, and I don't know who we knew that knew Hopkins, Adam Hopkins. I had that one at his parents' place, but it was like a vert ramp. And I think he was on the way back from some Thunder Bay trip or anyways. And I got to skate that, and it's just kind of like, it's exactly like that. It's like, it's this discovery and trying, and you know, people travel for different reasons, like culinary or, you know, architecture, and like skaters be like, I need to skate that. I need to skate that. If there's somewhere to skate, you don't have to skate for a long time. You just want to try it out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Or even just like in some cases, you know that you're probably not going to be able to skate it, but you want to see it, right?
Like, totally.
I mean, that was for me with Hollywood High. I knew I was never going to hit it, but I just wanted to be able to stand there and look at it and just be amazed at what has gone on that. Yeah.
There's a few spots that I would love to just. I'm more of a transition rider, so like seeing and skating the Big O and skating the Barcelona Wave was super huge for me. But just like as you mentioned, like California and street spots, I'm like, I would love to see Clipper, like that huge white hubba that.
Oh yeah,
Jamie Thomas. Impossible 50s and
the one in San Francisco.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see it. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's so nuts.
Yeah.
I heard of this one guy going to California with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend just humored him as he like drove around to all these other skate spots and just looked at them. Because to a non-skater, it's like, are you literally looking at that set of stairs?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Are you gonna skateboard? No.
Yeah.
Can you take my picture in front of it?
Exactly.
It's a funny thing when you talk about it that way. It makes it sound very funny.
Yeah.
That's a whole new lens.
Yeah.
So then you get connected to the Edge. You work there for a summer as a summer staff person, or?
Yeah, I started on a summer green team.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically started raising support. I was going to university at the time, and kind of worked out as a part-time job as I was going to school.
Right. And so what was your responsibility that first summer?
That was supposed to be a joke. I have no idea. Yeah, like a lot of
whatever Cliff said
intro stuff. Yeah, like clean, tidy, classic stuff like that. I did, you know, from my construction background and building ramps in the barn. I repairing ramps at minimum, like resheeting the masonite, that sort of thing, and then obviously hosting clubs and skating. And we built I don't know if it was that summer, but TJ Hebert and I built that kitchen upstairs. Remember that kitchen in the old Edge?
Yeah.
So yeah, just moving things around, renovating, playing a lot of ping pong, doing a lot of skateboarding, and then planning like contests. And
so that was at 125 Pacific. Yeah. And there's that Instagram account.
Yes.
And I've been it's been really cool to watch like all the I don't know most of the, like I know a couple guys, but I don't know most of them, and but watching it, it's really cool just to watch the history there. Yeah.
Yeah, the bangers are on that page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually very surprised of like how much footage this guy can like put out every week. He's putting out something new in basically every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy has so much. Who is it? Do you know?
I can't tell.
Oh.
I'm just joking. I can't tell because I don't know.
Oh. You don't know either? Wait, do you know?
I don't.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, his face
His
looked
face looked like he knew.
I was like, oh, Steve knows.
No, I was just thinking because conversation I had with Cal, was it on here or
Maybe.
was it outside of this where he was he was trying to convince them to give up their identity.
He was
or
in the
something.
comment thread of
Right,
one of their
that's
posts.
it.
I actually
That's
saw
it.
that. I was
Yeah.
like, good
Yeah.
try, Cal. Like, we all want to know. Actually, really funny story. Anders, Hominick, and West Treleven, they were at West Broadway, and we were skating, or they were just leaving as I was coming to skate. And they're like, so Geoff, you're going to come skate and post another clip today? I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, it's not you running 125 Pacific. Because I guess
everyone's trying to figure
I
it
guess
out.
125 had already posted that morning. So they're like,
Yeah.
we're going to ask Geoff if he's going to post another clip. I'm like, what? Like, no, not him. I'm like, it's not me. I want to know just as bad as everyone else.
Yeah.
It would be a good assumption to assume that it was an Edge guy that was doing it, right? Because you would think of who has the footage, right?
True.
I never touched a video camera though, and that's like old stuff. Like Crawley, like it's not me. It's someone older than me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like that goes quite a ways back. Like I don't know what the date stamp would be on some of those, but it'd be like late 90s, early 2000 maybe. Or
I started at the Edge 07, 06, 07. So anything before that would
because those guys were all skating kind of at the same time when we were transitioning from the outdoor platform into the Campbell Soup building.
Okay.
And those guys would come out because the Edge, I think, had one over 18 session, and we didn't have an age on ours.
Okay.
And so those guys, like Crawley had a van, and they'd all pile into his van and come out and skate Campbell Soup in the winter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any. I would love to see footage, by the way, of Campbell Soup, like especially if I could see like footage of that. Like I don't know if there's any compilations ever made of like Crawley in that van skating.
That I don't know. I don't like. They were filming when they came. I can't say that I've ever seen the footage.
Man,
I do have. I just found a clip the other day of Colin Lambert skating.
Oh, nice.
In there,
But
that. I mean, we might have footage of those other guys too. I'm not sure. We're still got a lot of tapes that we're gonna go through to see what we can find. So
you should start something similar to 125 Pacific. That would be wicked.
I don't know if we have enough footage for something like that.
yeah, we definitely can't post as much as they.
Don't post as much, but
At one point, Steve was doing about one a week.
Yeah, I was
of the park, of that old park.
No, just off that camera, I think.
Yeah, some of it was the park, some of it was from trips.
Yeah.
We're just waiting. Like Ben, you're hearing this. We're waiting on you to get us the footage off of those tapes so that we can post some more stuff.
Yeah, it's good though. It's really good. Like those accounts and just like reminiscing and looking back and
Yeah, it is fun to be able to look back at, and a lot of the guys that are in that stuff, they enjoy it too, because a lot of them, well, maybe not with the 1-2 Pacific stuff, but some of my stuff, some of those guys don't like. I don't think they even skate anymore. Like they think they're too old or whatever,
Right.
So it's fun for them to see
totally.
their old footage.
Yeah.
I was actually just thinking now, like as my memory's going, I did also skate the Edge a handful of times on different rentals, because in that Mech or Die 3 part, I have a bunch of footage at the Edge.
Oh, okay.
It's like, oh yeah, I was skating there fairly often.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Back when skate park footage was still okay.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh.
Speaking of we're talking about this podcast, like content over whatever.
Right.
For me, it was just like, just do anything from any skateboard trick will be good for my part. I will not worry about it.
Yeah.
I had a pretty low standard for my.
Well, I guess if you're a transition skater, like back before there were lots of parks, like all your footage is going to be skate park footage.
Yeah.
Even with parks, like outdoor parks, that's all.
It actually, it was a really bad part, but it was fun to obviously film. But it was lots of street actually.
Okay.
And the one trick that I can remember at the edge was down the handrail.
Okay.
So that's like the streetiest part of the skate
Interesting.
park.
Awesome. So once you were at the edge and you were part-time, that's when I got to know you.
Okay.
Because you were there part-time, I remember, and we'd show up once in a while and started getting to know you and saw your transition from part-time to full-time to director. And so let's talk about that whole edge experience and what that was like for you, because you were already part-time when the transition to the new spot happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like to have to move out of 125 and into 333?
Yeah, it was mixed emotions, right? Like sad that we were leaving a legacy laden building, and we were logistically closed for a fall, I think. So then we went to the North NY to keep connecting and keep skating with people. Yeah, it was sad. I was actually making a documentary about it at the time, so that's on the Edge website. It's called 20 Years in Running.
Yeah.
Kind of documents the last little bits and the moving out, exactly.
Okay.
And then the big reveal, or the big opening kind of night at the Edge. Yeah, it was super sweet to have a brand new skate park, obviously, with no walls and then blind corners like the old Edge had.
Yeah.
But you know, the grass is greener, right? Like in the new place, we're like, oh, the old place is so awesome. And I'm sure if we were in the old place, we'd be like, I want to skate a tall ceiling, no wall, smooth floor, not masonite,
no leaking.
Yeah. And with some stairs and with whatever we have, like it's there now, right? There's tons of pros. Yeah, it's in the big building, so it has pros and cons there too.
Right.
It was more of like a clubhouse feel on Pacific and Lily, where it was like kind of a dirty, dungy steel workers plant. But yeah, it was cool.
So what happened to the building?
It's now Non-Such Brewing.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can have a really nice beer there. And they pulled down room 1, and they actually left some of the old graffiti on, which is now an exterior wall. And the other ode to the old Edge that they paid is in the bathrooms. It says it's compulsory to wear helmets for all boarders, bladers, and bikers. Failure to comply will result in loss privileges. How did I remember that?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah, Geoff has a bad memory, but he remembers what was said in there.
Was it bathroom signs, though?
Yeah.
Was it the actual sign from the park?
Yeah.
And so they put it in their bathroom? Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So Non-Such Brewing. Go check it out. It's very pretty in there.
Yeah, I remember when Peg City was there.
Yes.
And it was fun to go in there, and you could still see the marks on the floor where the ramps were and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. You can still, like, when you walk into the brewery now, it's the same floor.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I like to, especially early on when it was Peg, it was a different brewery, which has now gone out of business. So now it's Non-Such. But I like to sit down. I liked sitting down there and being like, yeah, okay, the Horseshoe Bowl was here.
Yeah.
Room 2 is like, the mini ramp is there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of good memories out of that building, and sometimes when you talk to the older guys, there is a nostalgia around it that they don't have for the new Edge, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
But they weren't 12 in the new Edge.
Right.
The new guard will have the nostalgia there. But of course, you can never remake those first memories.
And we're familiar with that here, like with the changes that we've had in our skate community here, and how it's been tough, like for older guys, like even when we moved, when YFC moved ramps onto the platform, then it was like, what are you doing? This is our, like there was a lot of ownership around it and felt like we were moving in on them. But then when we moved them into the indoor, then it was like, what are you doing taking our ramps away, right? And so it's just like every kind of different, what's the word I'm looking for? The different generation, I guess, looks at it differently than the last one, right?
Yeah.
So. Although the park that we have here, I don't think anybody's going to miss it that much. when we get the new one.
Oh, like the
Right.
outdoor, you mean?
Yeah.
You mean the indoor? They're not going to miss an indoor? Like this one?
No, sorry. We're talking about the spot at the arena right now, the
Okay.
outdoor
Yeah,
spot
the outdoor.
that
yeah.
has Barkman ramps just put on a parking lot.
Okay.
And then, once we get the new one, probably there'll be some guys that will like have fond memories of skating there,
Yeah.
but
But I
no.
don't think it's going to be as big of a deal.
No.
But I know what you're saying. Like, sometimes it's hard to accept change.
Yeah.
So is your new park going to go right on the old ramps?
No, it's going to
Somewhere
be, it's like a block and a half away
Oh, okay.
from
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Do you think they'll take these ramps away?
We're not sure what we're going to do with them yet. My vision for them is to have them set up along, like we have a bunch of active transportation paths around,
okay.
and I would love to see them just placed randomly along there so that
Yeah.
a skater could like go skate the path and then hit this obstacle and then skate further and hit another one.
Yeah. Because, right now that's, they have like exercise equipment or whatever.
Right,
So you
right,
walk like this far and there's like a chin up bar and then you walk and it's elliptical or whatever. And
so the same idea, just with some ledges
with some
and
ramps
stuff.
and
Yeah. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's kind of my dream for that stuff, because once we get the new skate park, they do want to, like, it's on the parking lot for the arena and they want the parking lot back.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens to
Maybe
that
we'll
stuff.
have to cement my backyard.
Yeah.
there you
Just throw the skate park in my backyard.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to bring up, this podcast, having you on. So you're famous in Winnipeg on the news. I saw you on the news for doing a kickflip on ice with ice skates. What gave you that idea? Because that's a pretty dangerous thing. Like,
That's a very good question. What gave me that idea? Come on, memory.
While
I
you're
literally
thinking,
have no idea.
I want to comment on this.
okay,
So when I saw it, first of all, I think you posted earlier, like, not landing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then later on,
Yeah.
you posted a land of it. And so, for me, I was just kind of like, what's Geoff doing?
I remember us having that conversation.
And then also, as somebody who really enjoys playing hockey, like, the thing that I cannot get out of my head is, what are you doing to those skates? Like, on the grip tape, like that. It really bothered me that you were destroying those blades.
I actually, so like 20 minutes after I landed it, I went and played outdoor hockey. No, that's not true. 20 minutes after I landed it, I was getting my skates sharpened.
Oh, okay.
And then like a few hours later, I was playing outdoor hockey.
Yeah.
So they didn't get ruined, and it only had to. It was actually a friend of mine's dad. I don't know what. Ellis's dad.
Yeah.
He just like put him in he has a skate sharpener, so he just put it in there until it wasn't. I don't think it was crazy though. I have my board here if you want to see the skate marks too, if you guys are interested.
Yeah.
You can see what happened.
Like you didn't even use like an old sketchy board. Like, you used your regular.
my board, yeah.
Oh my!
I'm still
goodness.
using
You're
it.
still using it? That's hilarious.
Oh my!
I love it.
goodness.
Yeah, I have no idea why he wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Just one of those things.
One of those things.
And then it made onto like CTV or
City TV.
City, one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, CBC, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. It was very rewarding. I've never actually battled at I wonder if I started trying this trick before or after Doyle and Kurt's. What's
Oh, the
podcast
friend
called?
section?
Yeah,
The
the
friend
friend section
section.
said like send us our creative kickflip.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
I'll show you a creative kickflip.
Oh.
It might have been that, or
Okay.
it might have been a few tries in, and I'm like, oh man, I really got to land this now.
Okay.
Huh.
But I don't really remember. But yeah, landing, like I don't think I have battled for tricks like back when I was filming some stuff.
Yeah.
as a teenager, but I have not battled for a trick. Felt really good.
Nice.
Yeah. brought me right back to the core of skateboarding, right? Like if you battle for a trick and you get it, and that level of personal fulfillment,
Yeah,
it was pretty great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you get the flick?
It obviously wasn't like your ankle like doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
It was kind of more of like a, I don't know.
Just a swipe across and...
Yeah, I have really like stupid kickflips anyways. Like it doesn't go off the nose like someone that's good at skateboarding.
Yeah.
It does kind of go off the side already.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was kind of like closer to
Yeah.
a childhood kickflip than a real kickflip.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen people skateboarding like on ice just with their shoes, and that looks really hard.
Yeah.
Like slipping out like crazy. I couldn't imagine doing it. Rolled ankles and...
So new hockey skates are very rigid. I had no worries about my ankles.
Oh, okay.
My knees, on the other hand, could have definitely got blown out, but ankles was not.
Did you have a lot of like where the board slipped out sideways and you landed on your back or your
100.
butt or what? Yeah.
Well, I didn't actually land on my butt or back that many times. Actually, funny enough, the only time I fell one was trying to a nollie big spin as a warm up. that was a bad idea because I can't even land that clean on concrete. I always have to like skirt around, and that's not gonna happen on ice.
Exactly.
So I slammed doing that. But the only other time is I was gonna do a few tries with sock tape, like tape on my blades to save them.
Okay.
And I walked onto the ice and slipped and smoked my elbow, which I still feel today. So the only time falling was when I punked myself having tape on the bottom of the skates.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it went pretty.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not gonna go and try it.
I'm not either. I'm not even interested in skating on ice in the first place.
With ice skates.
Oh, ice skates, I'm okay. But
Watch next winter. Everyone's going to be filming parts on ice.
Yeah.
In ice skates.
Yeah.
Start a trend.
Yeah.
The COVID trend.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are looking for anything these days.
Yeah.
That was definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it would have been. Yeah, stuck at home, looking for something to do.
Yeah.
I've got the ice in the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
The board's there.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, it's fun that that the friend section kind of inspired it too. Those guys, some of their challenges and stuff are a little bit on the crazy side.
Oh, yeah. I
And
love them though.
Yeah. Where do we go from here?
Talk about how good the food in Lebanon is.
We can. Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about, for sure. Let's talk about trips. And you, like we had Cal on and he talked about road rage, which I'm sure you'll have some stories. And then also we've had the opportunity to do a couple international trips together, and which has been awesome. And hopefully we'll get to do that again sometime in the future. And so let's start with road rage. The memory that I brought to Cal's episode about you was the Montreal trip where the AC quit in the van, and you guys had to drive all the way from Montreal back to Winnipeg with no AC. And I remember you talking about having air fresheners stuck under your nose just to survive.
Yeah. That was no bueno. And the ears, like I tied my sweater around my ears because the wop 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 of the windows was so brutal. And sitting in the back seat of a 15 and being like, I had so much empathy for those guys later on, being like, oh my goodness, like there is no airflow back here and it's so hot. That was bad. That was not a good time.
But otherwise, road rage. Talk about road rage and kind of what that experience was like for you as a leader. Did you ever go as a student? No, I wasn't going back then, eh?
It might have. No, but I never went. No, it might have. But Just as a leader, I went.
Okay.
And, I started going west a bunch, and then when east got developed, then we would take the younger guys west and the older guys east. Kind of the unwritten rule is you had to have gone west 1 year to go east, because it was longer and we didn't understand. Like, even as leaders, we'd never done it before, so the west was kind of old hat, and we could take anybody on that trip. But east was a bit more gnarly, and we'd drive to Chicago and skate there, and then Toronto, Montreal. And they both have their allures for sure. The east is like totally street. It's like you're on a filming, like a real pro filming trip. It's like everything's urban, big cities, Montreal, Toronto, Chicago, and old architecture, and it was great. Whereas and skating the Big O, which was a huge highlight for me.
Yeah.
And then and a bunch of guys like throwing hammers down what's that huge thing? Skydome set in Toronto. It's so huge. Kyle Matwick ollied it way back, or maybe backboarded it. Anyways. And then obviously Fane and Penton just slayed it when they went. But those are awesome trips, just kind of watching guys shred and skating those great parks. And then the west is a totally different experience. It's like lakes. You're in the Okanagan, so Kelowna, Kamloops, Penticton. You're just like on the beach, and usually plus 45 or feels like it. And skating beautiful skate parks. So kind of a different thing, but both are great. And then obviously watching or seeing the Rockies and the beautiful landscape out west is amazing. And and the reunions with like the leaders, like those are some of my best friends. Like they're like family, like people who do this weird work of hanging out with younger skaters and taking the initiative to take them on trips. There's not that many people like that.
Right.
And when you run into them, you're like, we are the same person.
Exactly.
So that's always great seeing those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I always have been encouraged to, when you get to hang out with guys that kind of have the same vision or goals as you do, and even though you may not have known each other before, it's like you said, it's like you're the same person and think the same and see life the same. Yeah, it's always encouraging.
One of the highlights, actually, as I'm thinking about this and that brotherhood of the leaders, skate leaders there, I have this photo. I think it got posted on the Skate Summit website or whatever, but is when we would on Road Ridge West would wake up in the morning and have like coffee and like talk about the day before the day started. And I think we'd like pray for the dude that was sharing that night. Yeah. And there's this photo of like 30 dudes like having coffee and then praying for the one dude in the circle. I was like, this is like, that's one of the best moments of my life. Like that level of community and brotherhood and togetherness, and getting up early, which I suck at. And I always love when I am up early, and I love people. So that's like just etched in my mind of like, that is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. And speaking of that, you like networking and bringing people together is such a huge part of who you are. And so, yeah, like whether it's the trips or, like I think back to Lebanon and just like connecting with the local skaters and going skating their spots and just making friendships and stuff. It's just part of who you are, and it's what you do. And so what a great characteristic to have in being part of the skate community. You have any comments towards that?
Well, just thanks. Like, words of affirmation is a love language of mine, so that feels really nice to be known and to be encouraged that way. And it's totally true. And as you say it, I'm like, kind of helps me remember who I am and what I, can offer and want to offer, and that it does come easy to me, and it may not come as easy to others. building community and planning events and bringing people together. So, it totally resonates. As you were talking about Lebanon and like going and skating and their spots and meeting people, I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I'll just do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It reminded me of this other guy. I think his name was Mo or something like that. He almost invited me to go doing skate camps and building skate parks like around like Dubai and like these other areas of the world. I'm like, I have a family, but I want to do that so bad.
You're right. Yeah.
But I love dreaming. I love meeting people. I love bringing out what everyone's good at, because that's what the world needs is people to be themselves. And then, but anyways, love people.
And also part of that comes out then is the social warrior side of you. That is one of the things that I've always appreciated about you, and I think it fits with the work that we do in skateboarding, is looking out for the one that's either fallen through the cracks or downtrodden or whatever, like forgotten or not forgotten, but discarded or whatever, right? And that's always been part of who you are. I've always respected the way that you, like, if there's a skater that's homeless, you bring them home, or if there's a people group that needs defending, you're going to defend them. And so I just want to like say that out loud on the podcast, that how much I appreciate that about you, and make sure that our listeners know that's who Geoff is. And to the point where you're willing to sacrifice a whole lot for others. And I've always seen that. And that's, I've always been a huge fan of who you are because of that. And that's part of why, I've enjoyed like having you part of some of the international stuff and anything that you got going on that I can support. It's like, yeah, how can I support Geoff in the work that he does? Because I see, as much as we start out with getting involved with skateboarding because skaters are like a subculture that aren't always understood, and that's a big part of why we choose to hang out with them. And yet you make that so much broader and invite so many other people in as well.
Thank you. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. So it's in saying that, I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to continue to impact the skate community, and as well as your community outside of skateboarding, because of how you try to be a real ally and a voice for those that maybe don't have a voice. How would you say that was fostered in you?
Probably, actually, if I'm going all the way back, my dad headed up some of the immigration things through our church growing up.
Okay.
So I kind of saw like families come over from, war-torn Kosovo and war-torn Sierra Leone and then war-torn Syria. And my dad was kind of organizing that. And it's just what you do. And it kind of makes sense. It's like, they have need and we have. So let's
sure.
love. And it's quite simple when it's broken down. And then going to university, I took a lot of international development at CMU and Minnow Simons and U of W, and conflict resolution. And I've always I went, and my parents sent me to let me go on a German exchange in grade 11. So I guess there was a little bit of international, broad view given me right then and there already. And then, travel like Guatemala for that out of town program. Yeah. South Africa with my wife, and just other, travels around the globe. You just kind of see that, it's just not the same for everybody. And I don't feel like that's right. And that's just, but yeah, and where's that fostered? Love. I follow this book that talks about love, and that's probably the short answer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. And yeah, it's yeah, I'm not sure what else to say on that. Without just repeating myself, because it's just something that I want to honor you in this time for what I see you doing, and I'm challenged and encouraged at the same time by it.
I half brought my skateboard,
Mm-hmm.
because it has the Black Lives Matter stencil,
Mm-hmm.
and actually now the kickflip on skates marks.
Yeah.
And then the deck is actually the one that Peter Thomas did, so the Indigenous art,
Right.
syllabics. And then I don't know, I just had in my mind of like just switching over there's this part of my life, and then there's also the deck that's, you know, tending to your mind and your brain and mental health and like those kind of things. I was like, oh, this kind of really like sums up my 2020 is just what my skateboards are saying, which is
Mm-hmm.
social justice, you know, reconciliation, learning more and more as much as I can about, you know, Canada and all the injustices here to the first
Mm-hmm.
people here, and then just the journey that 2020 has had on people's mental health and
Right.
and on mine as well.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that so there's an edge board graphic of a watering can on a flower, and it looks like a brain. And the idea is to encourage talking about mental health and for people to seek help
Mm-hmm.
for their mental health, the same way we have a doctor, physical doctor. And
Right.
I think I'm a bit of a socialist at my core, and I think we should have a doctor that's free in Canada. And I also think, well, along with dentistry, but then the next thing, or is with all those things, we should also have therapists and counselors that are just like, if you need it, book an appointment.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm endeavoring to do, just to find a counselor, a therapist. I actually texted a friend who is a therapist to see who I can talk to, just to kind of keep myself good, keep myself healthy.
Yeah, for sure. It's we unfortunately we don't talk about that enough, about the idea of like we should all have somebody that we can check in with, right?
And being just vulnerable with your buddies is like 80% almost of talking to a counselor. Like that's what actually was told to me by a counselor, is like, if you can actually be vulnerable and talk with someone who knows and loves you, you don't have to necessarily book an appointment. I'm going to, because I want to have it all. Like I want to get as healthy as I can. But yeah, that's I think this kind of ties in like my heart for community, for people, for social justice, and people to be living equitably, and mental health, where it's like we just need to be together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to look at each other and love each other.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we can't help but get healthy in every which way.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, as you're saying that, I think like in some ways we've seen that in our skate community, right? Especially when you do a trip with a crew of guys and you are together, and you know, and you are getting to know each other deeper than you would if you're just hanging out at the skate park once a week or whatever, right? And just how much that creates that healthy environment to thrive in. I think I just noticed that in our community here, where we've got a kind of a core group of guys that, because our skate community is so small here in Portage, but we've got this core group of guys, and when one person is struggling, how you see the other guys, like their concern and they're wanting to step up for their buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a awesome thing to see. Like I'm enjoying watching that side of it. And even though like I'm still suggesting that, you know, you probably could go find some help, at the same time saying just stay connected to your community here because they love you and they want to see you thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so don't disengage from them when you're not feeling healthy.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is all your mind wants to tell you to do, right?
Exactly.
It's like be alone, you're alone.
Yeah.
And people don't know exactly what to do either, you know? It's like if my buddy's struggling, it's like, you know, but it's, you know, to be vulnerable, I was low like semi recently, and I was actually having a fire, and I was like, what would, you know, I'm all about, you know, helping others and best practices and whatever. I'm like, okay, now that you're on the need side, what is the best, now that you know what you know how it feels to be the one in need, what is like the ABC list to someone helping someone who's whatever in need? And right away, I was just like, reach out.
Yeah.
Like text, call.
Yeah.
And then if like that person doesn't respond right away, it's like text, call again. You know what I mean? Because when someone's low, they don't necessarily want to respond right away. But and just be bold too. Like we also had a baby. Like I have a 3-week-old Raphael, my first son, which I'm very stoked about. But and this is no knock on anyone that, you know, may have tried to help anyone or myself, you know, with any mental health crisis or with a baby thing. But like, instead of like hey, let me know what you need, just do something. You know what I mean? Like, because people who are either in a mental health crisis or like, you know, swamped with a new kid, it's really hard to be like, hey, Raleigh, are you going for groceries? Can you bring me milk? Like that's harder, instead of being like, Raleigh's the one trying to help. Hey, I'm at the grocery store. Do you need anything?
Right.
Like, oh, I'll actually say something if it's, you know what I mean? Or like, hey, I'm going to bring some stuff. What do you, like that's actually the best answer to me.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to bring something.
Right.
What is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like texting and be like, hey, I'm going to stop by when I had, sorry, now I'm just on this big mental health kick, but when I had, my wife and I had a miscarriage, which is another thing that people need to talk about more because it happens all the time. And it's super traumatic. Yeah. But my buddy found out about that and he just came over. Like he lived in my neighborhood and he may have brought some beer and cigarettes, but he came over to be with me. Yeah. He didn't ask like, hey, what's a good time? Or like, let me know if it's like, he's there.
Yeah.
That was 1,000% the right thing for me to do. And just the boldness, I think is what we need. And
it's scary though to like say you guys were taking it like, well, obviously you weren't taking it well, but if he came over and you're like, dude, we don't want people here right now, like we're just it's like that's what I think sometimes. Like maybe they just want to be alone, because I know like struggling with mental health for myself, my mind's always telling me you just want to be alone, like just make sure that people leave you alone or whatever. That's not what I need, but I guess it's just hard because that's what I think, to go and try to help somebody or like talk to somebody. In my mind, I'm like, well, I know my mind's always telling me I don't want help, so why would they want help, kind of thing. But they really do need need people. So,
and in that situation, like a text and a call, or a text and a call, and like not stopping would be what I needed at that time, like when I was sitting by the fire or whatever. And my actually 2 friends that ended up calling me that night, which was godsend. It was amazing. But I think with the miscarriage, I think my buddy knew me well enough, right, that he's like, I know that Geoff wants. Yeah, and maybe the text conversation was already lending itself to like, maybe I even reached out. I don't really know. Right. No. Yeah. But him coming that moment was like brilliant, and it was quite bold. It was quite bold, and it was bang on. But it's complex, but vulnerability, I think, is something that us guys specifically lack. Where it's like, don't reach out for help. Yeah. On your own.
Be a man.
Yeah. Pull up your bootstraps or whatever, which I always kind of wondered what the heck those things are.
Yeah. What a bootstrap looks like. Yeah,
I'm going to Google that later.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you were hoping to, or?
I had no expectations.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's good.
Raleigh?
I'm good. I think I got everything out.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Geoff, again. Just so good to sit and talk with you. And yeah, it's just been a fun journey for me to do skateboarding and ministry kind of in the same, I don't know, like we're not in the same community per se, but like with the same kind of goal and vision, and every once in a while getting to do it together has been is just, yeah, you're a huge encouragement to me, and hopefully you've been encouragement to our listeners today.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Yeah, no, this has been a pleasure, Raleigh. Stoked. And Steve, I to encourage you right back. You've definitely been someone that's helped me out along my journey. So don't go anywhere. Out of my life at least.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening and supporting and commenting. We appreciate all of it, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Geoff.
You guys.